Welcome. You're listening to How I Did That, a storytelling podcast. Let's jump into today's episode.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for reaching out. I'd love to take part in this.
Can you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a bit about where you are right now, what you're doing, and we'll go from there.
Hello, everyone. I'm Swarith Reddy. Thanks for having me. I'm currently a senior at Troy High School in Troy, Michigan. A little bit about me. I've always loved entrepreneurship since I was a kid. Innovating, building things is just a passion of mine. And something that I've started to do recently is turn my creations into businesses and start scaling them. So Neha has reached out to me after seeing one of my pitches that I've been just doing recently to get the word out about my company, Crown Smart Mirrors, which I'm sure we'll be going into in a little bit.
Awesome. And as well, on top of Crown Smart Mirrors, you have the Peace Syndicate and Ready Prep, right?
Yes.
Yes.
One of those is a tutoring service and the other is a nonprofit that I founded.
Let's start with the Peace Syndicate. So that one looks like it was formed the farthest back, like December of 2017, right? So can you talk a bit about what you do there?
Yeah, so the Peace Syndicate is a 501c3 nonprofit, which was sort of formed based around the idea of my personal spirit of a social service and volunteering, right? I was always interested in helping out in my community and doing things for others. And after joining numerous activities, I just found that I wanted to do things in a different way. So over the past few years, I've been experimenting, doing different things, seeing how best I could impact the community. And sort of the route that we've taken right now is that the organization has formed into a corporation that focuses on understated issues in the community and bringing awareness and taking action for those issues. So how this organization is sort of structured now is we have a main board which sort of oversees the whole organization, as well as individual chapters both domestically and internationally. So we're now in 4 countries and 6 states. So we're doing great, making impact all around the world.
You're 16, right?
Yeah, I'm 16.
That is a lot to do at 16. Like when I was 16, I didn't know anything about starting a business. If I had an idea, I would always think that like there's probably 10 other adults out there who have a better idea. So I would never kind of act on anything that I had thought of. Did you ever have that feeling?
So for me, I've always embraced failure. I think I enjoy losing far more than winning. And this is a really weird thing to say, but I think that personally, I found that when I try my best and lose, I learn a lot more from that experience than if I were to win, right? And although this situation doesn't exactly qualify in terms of winning and losing, I still think that regardless of how it turned out or how it went in the end, I wanted to try my hand at it because either way I would have learned something while doing something I enjoyed and was passionate about.
That's a really good mindset to have. As you progress through the years, you kind of have that failure or success built up. It's still experience nonetheless, right?
Yeah. Because the initial goal wasn't to build a successful nonprofit. It was just to build an environment and a community where I could do social service the way I wanted to and get others involved under the flag of my own passions.
If you start out something thinking that like I need to make this a success, then when it doesn't become a success on the first try, then you're kind of like, oh, like I feel defeated. But when you set out to like make it your mission to just, enjoy what you do and bring this to other people, then I mean, when that happens, whether it's a failure or a success, you're kind of
Yeah.
When did you decide that you wanted to register this as an actual business?
So I started doing some work in my freshman year of high school. So that was 2017. So that was when the sort of organization founded. But at that point, it wasn't an organization at all. If you saw on my LinkedIn that said December 2017 or January 2018, that's when I got together with a group of friends and just started doing local volunteering activities. And we would do community sessions, speaking about topics, trying to change local policy, right? Making small changes the way we could. As things progressed later on that summer and to the fall, we really wanted to build this into a solidified structure so that we could not only help ourselves by feeling more organized, but also so we could get more taken seriously in our community. After all, we were high schoolers, we were teens. It gets really difficult when we're reaching out to big corporations for sponsorships. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, you're just a kid, you should just be having fun right now. This isn't what you should be doing. But I really wanted to take it the next step. So that's when I pushed it forward to actually incorporating the Peace Syndicate. And this year we actually got our 501c3 status.
Wow. So it takes, what year did you like file for the 501c3?
So I filed for 501c3 this June, and I got it in August.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so over like back from in 2017, like that's when you kind of had the idea, you started doing the volunteering. And when you said you were trying to change local policies, can you explain a bit about that? Like, were you able to make a change with what you were doing at the time?
Yeah. So, for example, one of the things that we were doing is we were focusing on getting stricter laws for vaping and specifically e-cigarettes, and doing it around school areas, right? And we weren't able to make a big impact by ourselves, but I think collectively with the partnership with many other organizations, doing petitions, that sort of stuff, the state of Michigan did enforce stricter laws on vaping. So that was something we were able to see, and that was a great experience for us.
Oh,
So
wow.
although we weren't the main contributors of that at all, or even by far, just taking part of that was enough for us.
Where did you get the ideas on what policies you specifically wanted to change? Yeah, you could change
So,
things in so many different areas, right?
Yeah, at the time, of course, I was spending most of my time at school. So a lot of the things that we focused on, we tried to go for a different idea per month, right? So we'd have like a monthly session at our library, have like a talk with just community members there, and then try to take action on it. So for example, vaping and e-cigarettes were just one of our months and one of the policies that we were trying to affect. But a lot of this was just me and my fellow members of the organization just sitting around a table and seeing what were the issues that we saw most frequently that were affecting the people nearest and dearest to us, like mental health, right? Mm-hmm. That sort of thing is something that we saw very frequently and something that we were passionate about making a change towards. So the main idea was what we felt most strongly about. That's what we sort of chose to work towards.
Were there any other main policies that stuck out to you that you wanted to make a change in but didn't get around to it, or maybe you were able to?
Yeah, so I think the one that I mentioned was probably the one that had the most tangible results. After that, though, I think we had several months of this once a month policy sort of focus, and then we really started to face changes internally, and with the changing situation around us, we really needed to figure out how exactly we wanted to do what we were going to do and what exactly we wanted to do, because we were still changing with our passions, with our beliefs, our ideals, and the organization sort of reflected that over time. How this changed towards now is we sort of go on a project-based approach where we have organization-wide projects. And then each chapter, for example, I mentioned the domestic and international chapters, is able to focus on different projects that they wish to do. So some of our organizational-wide projects that have continued from our original once-a-month policy structure are we try to raise funds for refugees. And we've specifically worked with Refugees International, which is a large nonprofit that works with refugee camps. And we've sort of worked out a deal where we started a GoFundMe raising funds. So within a short span of about 2 weeks to a month, we raised $3,000 for refugees suffering from COVID-19. So that was an amazing thing we were able to do this year. Some other policies that we're working on organization-wide is we were trying to get more environmentally friendly and mental health friendly lighting systems in public school buildings, which is sort of a smaller thing that you wouldn't think of much, but it can play a big impact long term. So that's something that we're working towards. It's a lot of work, a lot of funding is required to go into that, but that's sort of one of our long-term projects.
So you started this right at your school, right? And you had these monthly sessions kind of getting ideas from everyone in the group. But then when you decided to expand out, because you wanted people to take the group more seriously and get more funding, and when you registered this as a business, was that the point where you started to kind of branch out and make chapters in other schools, or did you start that beforehand?
So we started spreading within the state, I would say early 2019 to mid 2019. So we started spreading within the state, but we were pretty locally contained, I would say, for a good chunk of the while. And that was mainly because we were figuring ourselves out, like I was saying, right? We weren't exactly sure what we wanted to target and how we were going to target. And I was fine with that because I felt that it wasn't, the purpose of the organization wasn't to rush and get statistics and numbers, right? That wasn't the focus. It wasn't just another thing on a college resume, right? It was something that we were genuinely passionate about. So it didn't matter how long it really took to figure out what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. Then we sort of branched out this year to other states, to other countries. So we have tons of people working with us now doing different projects. Everyone in the organization is all focusing on the whole motto of the organization, which is to focus on issues that you are passionate about yourself, right? So that's something that we really focus on. It's not just to force my ideals on everyone in the organization, but I really wanted to give everyone a chance to focus on what they were interested in or the issues that meant the most to them, because I feel that to work your best, to put in the most amount of effort, to work the most efficiently, you have to truly mean and feel strongly about what you're doing.
Like you started these other chapters, right? That weren't specifically for your school. So then do you oversee all of them and you keep track of who is in each chapter at each location and the ideas they're bringing forward? And then you guys try to work on something, or how do you oversee now that it's like spread out in so many places?
We do have like a national board of 5 students who sort of oversees the whole organization. Then we have chapter heads. So for each of the US states that we're currently active in, we have a chapter head. And for international countries, we have 1 chapter head each. So like I said before, we're in 4 countries total now with 6 states. So that amounts to like 9 chapter heads. These chapter heads are permanent positions, and they communicate frequently through Slack, which is an instant messaging platform. And that's just our overall organization. So volunteers at each chapter are free to come and go. We sort of we go on a project basis, right? So we have work lined up for them, and they're able to do what they like. Something that we are proud of is we're a PBSA certifying organization. So students are able to get official volunteering hours from working with us. And we sort of see, we do keep track of the students or members who are working with us the most, so that we can move them up the organization, get them doing bigger and better things. But we don't tie our members down to us. We don't force them to stay with us or pay any dues or anything like that.
Can you talk a bit more about how did you actually end up getting connections in different countries? Like, did you have connections beforehand, or?
Something that I did personally on my own time this summer was I took part in the University of Pennsylvania Wharton Global Youth Meetup, where I was able to meet a bunch of like-minded peers from all over the world. So that was a really cool experience. After this program, I did have a lot of connections to friends internationally. So I reached out to them, was able to get some interest from them, reached out to, got connections from them, so secondhand connections. And that was sort of my initial step towards growing. Another thing that I saw that worked was sometimes we just cold message people on LinkedIn, and it really did work. I mean, you do get a lot of no's and a lot of non-responses, but the few yeses go a long way. So I think it's just that relenting, reaching out and not giving up on trying to expand and grow the organization.
I see. That's a really good point. Like when you went to the networking event, what was the name of UPenn? What was it called?
Yeah, so I took part in the summer program at Wharton. So all of the summer programs at Wharton sort of had a collective networking platform called the Global Youth Meetup. So that's sort of where I was able to meet up.
Okay, and could anybody attend this? Like if you were youth, like under a certain age?
Wharton itself has several programs. Some of them you need to apply and be selected for, which was I participated in the Management and Technology Summer Institute, which is a selective summer program that I took part in. But there are also other programs which you can sign up for. Some of them I think may be free. I believe most of them do cost a certain amount, but students who can't afford it or having difficulties can get scholarships for these programs. So as long as you're part of any one of the summer programs affiliated with Wharton, you should be able to take part in this global youth meetup.
Okay. And what do you take away from it? Like, what do you learn once you complete the program?
For me, I spent most of my time with this past summer with the Management and Technology Summer Institute. So this program in specific really helped me merge my passions of both engineering and business, something that I've loved for a long time now, and sort of see how I could tie that into entrepreneurship, how I could grow a company. So something that we were able to do, which was really cool, is we were able to work on projects in small groups with direct mentorship from University of Pennsylvania students and staff members. So my group personally worked on an app that made fashion suggestions using an AI algorithm. So that was something really cool that we built. We were all really proud of it. Other programs have different focuses. I'm not too sure with those, but I think that overall as a whole, more than just the content, more than just the learning, the main thing for me was to expand my myself outside of the bubble of Troy, Michigan that I've lived in all my life. I was able to meet so many different people with diverse backgrounds, mindsets, outlooks. Some of them who are probably will be friends for life now. And I think those connections are not just people or numbers on a page, but they're meaningful connections, right? Actual relationships, which are give and take and that I'm able to learn out of over a long period of time. I took part in it this summer. It's recurring every summer. These programs occur.
Okay.
It was just, for me, I took part in it this past summer.
But with COVID, was it online or were you able to attend?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I did have to attend online. Normally, it is actually taking place at the school, and there are a lot of cool events that go along with it. So for anyone listening, I'd really encourage you to take part. It is a great program. I think the staff did a very great job of continuing the program online and trying to make sure we were able to have just as much social experiences that we would have if it was in seat.
That is really great that you were able to make all those connections and just sitting in your home and able to do all that.
Yeah.
So those 9 chapter heads that you said, like, are these people that you personally know, like you can hold them accountable and they are reporting back to you directly?
Yeah, so that's how that works. They directly report back to my operations director, who sort of focuses on taking the structure of the organization and sort of make sure that everything is running on plan. My sort of job description, as I like to call it, is sort of to just manage the overall direction of the organization, make sure just on a macro scale that everything is going well. But yeah, these chapter heads are people who are able to be held accountable. They have deadlines to meet, things to do, right? It's an actual position that they need to fulfill.
So where do you see it going from here? Or is the headquarters like over here in Troy where you're living? That's kind of like quote unquote headquarters.
I wouldn't put a specific location on the headquarters itself. I would say that right now, I guess it is in Troy as I'm currently here. But my main focus for this was for, though we do have adults as part of the organization, some of our chapter heads who I've reached out to are adults who are doing work with the organization. Our Nigeria chapter head is actually a working adult. But my main focus for the organization is for students to gain leadership opportunities and to develop their passions. So I think for me, in a long-term sort of situation, I will stay very involved with the organization, but I will have people stepping up to take on my role while I take on a more advisory role, right? To keep everything, make sure it's going on track, but to give new students new opportunities. So that's my focus. So it really depends on who will be taking on the mantle in the future. And that's why I don't like to put a specific location on it.
So you have the groups in all these different countries, right? The chapters, and then they kind of have ideas and they bring that to the chapter head. And then you guys and the rest of your team, you're over here and you oversee everything that's going on. But then with the funding part of it, like, are you guys responsible to get the funding for the projects that these chapters are having ideas for?
Our job as the overseeing board is not to specifically run the projects ourselves, at least in long term. Right now we are taking part hands-on, but the sort of idea mindset is we do have organizational wide projects that all of our chapters will take part in, right? Or will have the opportunity to take part in, right? And then chapters themselves can choose to have chapter specific projects, which just need to be approved by us, or they just need to let us know. And then they're responsible of taking that on themselves. But they do have the whole organization, all the other chapters working with them and supporting them. So although we do have individual chapters, they are able to reach out to each other for help. Resources are fluid. It's not individualized or sectorized in any way.
Do you allocate the funding per each project wherever they need it?
Yeah, so funding is allocated usually by the chapters based on what the effort reached out to. So, for example, one of the ways we'll get funding is through contacting corporate sponsors, right? So we may contact different corporate sponsors for different purposes or different projects. And based on the project that corporate sponsor is funding or chooses to fund, right, the money will be allocated towards that sort of project, right? So it's up to the people who are giving us the funding, not us ourselves in that sense. That way, the people who are giving us the money know exactly what their money is going towards.
I see. That's a lot, overseeing all of that. Are there any specific initiatives or projects currently going on at the moment that you can share with us?
Yeah, for example, two of the ones that I talked about that are still going on are the lighting project and the refugees resources project. Mm-hmm. Another project that we currently are releasing and still in beta stage but we've currently released our initial version, is a website that helps high school and middle school students find resources for extracurriculars, standardized testing, competitions, scholarships. And it really just condenses all of the information down to one easy to find area, which currently I know, at least in my school and from various other schools that I've witnessed, there's been a great increase of clubs and just opportunities with students not knowing how to make proper use of them. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of our vision for this. We call this Project Future, helping students take control and advantage of the opportunities that will benefit them in the future. So that's one organizational-wide project. And chapter-wide projects that I can give an example of is for our Nigeria chapter. We're currently working with Nigerian corporations and school systems to get laptops and Wi-Fi to villages in Nigeria. So that's a project we're working on right now.
So you guys have people over there who are, buying all of these things that you need and bringing it to the schools or the areas, doing all the transportation, everything, handling that.
Yeah.
And specifically for this project, bringing like the laptops and everything, do you have a deadline for that? Like, how long do you expect that to take?
So this is a long-term project, especially with COVID-19. We had to halt our sort of expectations for this. So I couldn't give you an exact deadline now because communication is a difficulty, transportation is a difficulty. I let the chapter heads sort of set the deadlines themselves because they know what's going on there far better than I do, being there themselves. All I do and all the operations director does mainly is make sure they're doing what they need to be and are on track and that they have the resources. We trust our chapter heads and they have proven that they are capable of doing, of course, what they've said they do. Our main duty is just to make sure that they have the resources they need. And if they need any help, we can always connect them to that and help them with that.
Definitely difficult to continue these projects when places are on lockdown too.
Yeah.
For people who want to join or who want to check it out, where can they go?
If you check out our organization Instagram page, there is a link in the bio where you can sign up for our Slack organization, which you can get access to project, volunteering hours, all that information. You can sign up and just apply for the organization. It's a quick application that you can quickly fill out. And then you can join us. We'll assign you to a chapter. And if your location doesn't have a chapter, we can help you start one if you'd like, or we can see how to get you moving forward from there.
Nice. So do you guys have a website or is it the Instagram page?
Yeah, we do have a website as well, thepeacesyndicate.org, thepeacesyndicate.org. That should be up and running. We just put up a new website, a new and updated website. So that'll be something cool to check out.
I'm going to actually link everything that we talk about in the description box of the podcast so people can find it there as well. That's a really big project and that is awesome that you're doing all that. So now we're going to be moving forward. Your second business is Reddy Prep. So can you tell us a bit about that and how you got started, where you got the inspiration?
Yeah. So Reddy Prep was actually closely, I know I said it wasn't earlier, but it is actually closely tied to the Peace Syndicate. The original reason I founded Reddy Prep was to sort of gain funding for the Peace Syndicate. Something that I've just focused on working on for a long time now is standardized testing. And I had completed that at a far earlier age than a lot of my peers. So something that I thought that I could help other students do was follow in my footsteps and get these sort of tedious tasks out of the way so that they could, again, focus on things that they were more passionate about, while also gaining funds for my nonprofit. So that sort of developed into me just doing private lessons to group lessons on the SAT and ACT, then getting more instructors, diversifying my range of what I'm sort of teaching. The whole purpose was, again, just to mainly help students not focus so much on tedious things and focus on what they're passionate about while also gaining funds for my nonprofit.
When you started Reddy Prep, how did you advertise your tutoring business?
My advertising for Reddy Prep was mainly done through word of mouth, literally from person to person. I'm part of a lot of local communities. So I think that once I sort of worked with a few students within one community, word quickly spread, right? So some extracurriculars that I was part of were the robotics community. So the Troy robotics community. Once I worked with some of the students in that community, I was able to get a lot of marketing and advertising just from sort of my customers to across the whole community. So I think that's something that I was very fortunate to have, many supportive communities. I don't think I focused on through much online marketing. I did have a website for Reddy Prep at a certain point, but due to tech issues, I had to take that website down. Yeah, it was mainly just word of mouth through communities.
When you got started with the tutoring, how did it progress? Like you probably started with one or a couple students, then the word of mouth. You mentioned that you do group tutoring as well, right? So how fast did it progress, and how do you find group tutoring? Doesn't every student have different needs? So then how do you handle talking with each student one-on-one if they're in a group?
I did start with very few students, just people who I knew personally. And again, through that spreading word of mouth, I was able to gain a large base of people reaching out to me, asking what services I provided. And then once I was able to get maybe a large list of names, I reached out to all of them looking for interest in sort of some group classes. I think ACT and SAT were topics that I could do in group classes. I didn't focus on many others in group classes because I did, like you said, understand that it's very hard to give personalized education in group settings. But something that I was able to do in my sessions is, because I wasn't focusing on making a large profit off of it or anything, it was just something to keep my nonprofit going. I was able to give one group session a long time. So my group sessions lasted a year long, and students were also able to contact me outside of class, maybe once or twice a week in 30-minute sessions for just individualized help. While the group sessions were just mainly for me doing content-based lectures, them taking notes, and then digesting that information on their own through practice and homework that I created. And then they were able to come to me for additional help outside of class. All the group sessions were focused on one topic, so they weren't people wanting to learn different things.
So usually students write their SAT or ACT in like 11th or 12th grade, or when do they usually write it?
So students do usually write the ACT and SAT anywhere from 10th to 12th grade, but most of my students were students from 6th to 8th grade. Okay. So I had very young students taking it, but they were all very successful with taking the ACT and SAT, and also grew great leaps and bounds across the course of the year, which was something that I was very happy with.
What grade did you take it in? Because you mentioned you took it earlier than most people.
Yeah, I first started taking standardized tests with the ACT Inspire, which I don't think they do anymore, but it was the ACT version of the PSAT, which used to exist. So I started taking that in 3rd grade and took it all the way up to 6th grade. Then in 6th grade, I started taking the ACT and SAT and completed my SAT in 9th grade and my ACT in 10th grade. And I was very happy because some of my students were able to finish even earlier than me in 8th grade. So that's some progress that I was able to see.
Oh, that's awesome to get it out of the way. Because like with in Canada, we don't have to write any kind of standardized test for universities. I didn't know that kids start as early as 6th grade.
Well, most don't. I'll put that out there. Most don't. This was just students who were very proactive and were very interested in what I was offering and took advantage of that.
That's good. And then the ACT has like reading, writing, and math, or critical thinking?
Yeah, ACT has a grammar section, a reading section, and a math section and a science section, while SAT has 2 math sections, 1 calculator, 1 non-calculator, 1 grammar section, 1 reading comprehension section.
Are you still tutoring students? Like, is it still an ongoing thing?
So I do some occasional one-on-one sessions. I don't do it on mass scale as I did before. I don't see myself finding that much time for it recently, but I do have others working with me, others teaching. So that's something that's been going on, but on a lot smaller scale than what was before.
At the time that these students are learning what you're teaching them, they are at different levels in math. But then at the same time, they all want to get to that 11th or 12th grade level that they have to know for the SATs. And that's a lot to progress through. So how would you structure that and combat that problem, I guess?
Yeah. So the 3 sort of American high school courses that the SAT revolves around is Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. But also the SAT does not cover all of the concepts in these courses. So I do know that these courses are year-long courses that are taken in school. Obviously, these aren't as focused on in my classes. I do start at the Algebra 1 level, so it is difficult for students who aren't at that level to follow. That takes a lot of work beforehand on their part. It's not possible for me to start all the way from an earlier math. There's just not enough time. But I didn't see that being too much of a problem because most of the students who were willing and wanting to learn these courses were already in math levels far ahead of their grades. So that was something that was able to be worked on. Something that they actually faced a lot more difficulty with was actually the maturity and difficulty of the reading sections, as they are sections that are even difficult for many 11th graders and 12th graders. That again, I made them do a lot of reading assignments, a lot of comprehension, just growing their skills. And something that I saw with these students that were starting in 6th grade, it wasn't just them going through the course once and then being done. They took this course twice or thrice, right? Really trying to digest it over and over again once they were growing and gaining the information and skills they need.
When you said they took the course a couple times, they meant your course, like your year-long
Yeah,
session?
my course, yeah.
Were you able to raise a lot of or enough funding with Ready Prep for your other business?
Yeah. Ready Prep, it was really helpful in gaining initial funding just to get the Peace Syndicate off the ground. The applications for incorporation and for 501c3 do require funding. Just to do our everyday activities require funding, and something to help us started, get us an initial push. Ready Prep really did help with that. But now with the 501c3, with far more members, we're able to, we have a lot more range of connections now. We're able to reach out to corporate sponsors. So we don't need Ready Prep as much.
Cool. So now we're going to move to Crown Smart Mirrors, which is your current business.
So let me just give you a little bit of background. Innovation, engineering, that's always been a passion with me. I like to call myself an inventor, as I always tinker with things. I'm always creating. I'm doing something with my hands. Something that I worked on earlier this year, just a little bit before the advent of the pandemic, was I was working with smart mirrors, which are basically two-way mirrors with monitors behind them. So basically imagine an iPad or any other device, but just a mirror instead of an actual screen, right? So I was just working with this just to grow my skills, just to have some fun. And I really thought this was a cool product, and I wondered why it wasn't more widespread. But I didn't do as much with it until the pandemic itself started. Once the pandemic itself started, I saw myself not being able to try on clothes at stores. Out of all the issues that I could have chose to work towards, this was not maybe one of the most impactful or society altering, but it was something that meant a lot to me, as it was something that I really enjoyed doing. Going to the mall and shopping and trying on different clothes. Fashion was always an interest of mine, just personally, and this was something I couldn't see myself doing. So I sort of had the idea to create a smart mirror that allowed you to visualize yourself trying on clothes without actually physically wearing them. This was just a random idea I had, and I decided to start working towards it. I realized that I was working way ahead of my skill set, way ahead of anything that I could do on my own at the time, right? So I decided to sort of take this a step back, right? See how I could start this. I knew that this is something that I wanted to pursue, but I needed to figure out how I could do that, because I couldn't just start out with an impossible goal. I started out taking these just personal smart mirrors with just recreational things, such as football highlights, news highlights, date and time, a schedule you can look at when you're brushing your teeth, or just simple things. It was a really cool product. It wasn't anything new though, right? But again, like I said, it was something that shocked me, the fact at how not widespread these are. And something that I really noticed after doing some research was that, like many things, this product was a luxury good. It's not something that consumers or customers need in their day-to-day lives, right? And if you look at many other luxury items, such as handbags or luxury clothes, things that go beyond the value of what people need, they often come with something else associated with them, right? So for example, if you take a look at handbags or clothes, like I mentioned earlier, something that comes with them, expensive ones especially, is brand, right? That's what's attached to them. Those clothes and handbags aren't as valued for their function as they are for the brand. That was something that I realized that I would have to build for these products in order to get them to the consumer, which meant that to start out, I couldn't directly just go up to a consumer and say, hey, do you want my product? Because after all, this is a new product, not something that has anything attached to them, not something that they may particularly want. So our focus was to take this existing product and add a business to consumer approach to it. So something that we targeted is we are trying to reach out to home development, home staging companies, interior design companies, to place these mirrors inside of homes. Our mirrors all have our logo on them, so they do have that brand aspect to them. So once these get into more and more homes, our sort of image is for this mirror to turn into a brand, right? Crown Smart Mirrors, something that you want to have in your household, right? It's just that brand associated with it. And once we have these funds, this brand name, this whole reputation behind us, then we can start moving forward and work towards the initial fashion mirror that I had a passionate idea about.
When did Crown Smart Mirrors, it's a registered business, right?
It is not a registered business.
Oh, it's
not
not.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So something that I wanted to sort of wait on was to sort of grow my business. I didn't see a need yet to incorporate it, but I do foresee a need soon, and I do see that in the next few months, if not the next few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not seen a need to do it yet.
Okay, so
And a main issue behind that was because I'm underage, legally I'm not able to put a business under my name, which means that, like the Peace Syndicate, I would have to put it under a name of an adult. Although in the Peace Syndicate, it's not under the name of an adult, I was running the whole thing. But Proud Smart Mirrors, due to many other reasons, I couldn't just register this under an adult. And was something that I had to wait on, find some alternative means on, and something that we will be able to do in a few weeks and a few months once we do need an incorporation status.
when you have something like this, what are the benefits of registering it as a business versus like working on it and then once it's a lot bigger, registering it after?
So the main reason for registering a business is for legal reasons. It gives you a lot more protection, as for example, if you were to get sued in the worst case, instead of the one being sued being the proprietor, the one being sued would be the company itself. That way the proprietor wouldn't be directly affected by a company issue. For example, if I encountered an issue with a product when selling it directly to a consumer, all of the legal blame would fall on me right now instead of Crown Smart Mirrors. So the main reason to initially start incorporation would be to just protect yourself and protect your business.
The one that you were talking about, did you make that at home?
Yeah. So I made it at home. So all these products right now are being made at home in me and my employees, as officially they're called, but I like to call them my teammates, who we all do them at our houses. All our parts are either purchased online or 3D printed. And so all these are developed by ourselves right now.
Can you talk us through, without giving away anything proprietary, but can you talk us through from the beginning, how would you put something like that together?
Yeah. So for the smart mirror itself, we at least internally divided it into two main parts, hardware and software. That was the easiest way for us to target it, right? So initially, software was the main thing we had to figure out, because without that, it didn't matter no matter what we had the hardware for. So I started programming it, and then I got several teammates on board with me who are also classmates and peers at my school, just working on the software. And we were able to complete the software just recently. So that was something really cool. We did publish our app. So our app is on the Google Play Store now. You can't use it much without an actual mirror product, but it is on the Google Play Store. So that was a huge achievement for us. But as for the hardware process, that was all designed by me using 3D CAD softwares. I designed the 3D model for the frame, and that will be 3D printed. And then all the parts such as the mirrors, the technology, the mini computer inside, that's all stock bought. So that's all products that anyone can purchase and can be resold by anyone in the form of a product. So the app's main purpose is to connect to the smart mirror. We haven't been able to get onto the App Store yet because of Apple developer complications, but we are on the Google Play Store. And for those who can't access the Google Play Store, we do have a online web functionality.
And when you started programming this, do you have a background in programming?
Yeah, so like I said, I've just worked on a lot of projects on my own. So all of my programming was self-taught through videos and books and just application-based programming. So that's how I learned. Sort of figuring it out on the go was my main thing. I know my teammates some of them have similar approaches towards learning. Some of them have been taught in different ways. Each of us individually, collectively came together to put our own skills and talents to create our final product.
What programming language is it coded in?
The main bulk of the software for the mirror is coded in Python. We do have to use different languages such as Java, JavaScript, just for all the other parts such as the website, the app, Android Studio. We did have to use a widespread range of things because we couldn't just use Python.
I'm not exactly sure how this works, but when you do have multiple coding languages, do you just have one main compiler and they all work on there?
We ran everything into one package and then compiled that into one package. The files were all like local in the one package, and they were able to sort of call on each other. And the package was stored in our mini computer inside of the smart mirrors, or in the app, or on our website.
if I were to use this and go to the Google Play Store, if I were to download the app, how would I go about connecting it to a mirror?
Each of our mirrors has a little code on it that appears on the bottom left. All you need to do is put your name, some other basic information into the app, and then put that code into there, and then it'll automatically connect to your mirror as long as you're on the same Wi-Fi network.
So what does that mirror show me?
That mirror will show you basic information such as time, date, a schedule, Twitter highlights, news highlights, football highlights. There are a lot of modules. You can personalize your mirror through the app. We'll be continuously adding modules as time goes on, which you can download through the app. We will eventually add a functionality where you can create your own modules if you wish. So that way it'll be a fully customizable sort of maker-based product, something that I think is personally cool. I know a lot of people have done that with 3D printers and other cool techie products. So that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Would I be able to like drag and drop the modules around? And like if I wanted the weather to move to this side and the football highlights on this side, are you able to do that?
Yeah, you should be able to do that. Yeah.
Well, and is there a photos thing? Like what if I wanted to show photos from my camera?
Yeah, so we do have a Chromecast option on the mirror. So you can play videos. There are speakers too, so audio will work too. Photos, you can completely just change it so that it's just showing a photo. So if you don't want to show any of the mirrors at any point in time, you can just turn it into a painting or a family photo or anything you would wish.
How did you do the 3D printing part of it?
Something we were lucky with is one of my teammates actually has a 3D printer at home. So they just print the parts themselves. And that's how
I see. Yeah. What are your costs of creating a mirror?
The only main costs for us are developer costs for example, like I mentioned earlier, like uploading the app onto the Google Play Store. That costs a little bit, not too much though. Our main costs are, again, just the hardware parts of the mirror, the frame, the actual two-way mirror itself, our mini computer, our monitor, right? That's all stuff we have to pre-order. All the funding is currently coming from me on the initial funding, and all profit that we gain is bootstrapped. So all profit that we gain goes completely back into the company itself. So neither me nor none of my teammates are actually making any money out of this yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how big are the mirrors, or how big can they be?
We can go up to 36 by 36, and we are mainly looking to sell on Etsy to start. So then you can choose your own size, and based on that, we will have preset sizes, which will help with faster shipping, but you can order custom size. Eventually we'll get to custom shape too. And then pricing will change based on that.
Does it come as a circle right now, or is it only rectangle?
Right now it's a square. Right now it's a square or a rectangle. But again, like I said, one of the main things that we're looking at is maybe a circle or an oval.
You had mentioned during the summer program that you did, you also created a fashion app there, right?
Yeah. That was just a project that we worked on, but we didn't move forward with that onto any app store or Play Store.
Okay, because with this mirror, you wanted to make a smart mirror. The original problem was that you couldn't try on clothes, and you wanted a mirror to be able to do that for you without actually trying on the clothes, right? So then how does what you have now, based on that, how are you going to bring it to what you wanted it to do originally? Yeah,
so our main goal to start is just to grow our company, right? The main reason why I couldn't focus on from the get-go on my initial project was because of lack of resources and lack of skill base, right? So something that is essential in creating this product is for me and my teammates to grow our skills both on the business end and on the programming and software end, right? The fashion mirror that I mentioned requires very heavy duty software with 3D modeling and a lot of complex things, some technologies that aren't even currently on the market, right? So things that we would have to develop on our own, which was the main issue. And we just didn't have enough people either, right? And another factor that I didn't mention is time as well. We are all full-time students, so we don't have 24/7 all day to just work on this either. That's something that I decided to, over time, use this initial project, which was something that we could work on to grow as all the other resources fell into place. First, with the product that you have now, can people buy it? Because you said you wanted to put it on Etsy. Is it on there? So it will be on there, hopefully by the end of this week, latest by the end of the month. We're having some issues, especially with the pandemic right now, which had to delay our launch a few times. But it will be on there very soon. So hopefully by the time the podcast goes out, it should be up on Etsy.
Cool. So will it ship to Canada or is it just the US right now?
We're hoping to ship to the US and Canada
Okay,
now.
because I want to link it in the description when I put up the podcast so people can go on Etsy and find it. Going back to what we were saying earlier, where you wanted to scale this app so that it can actually model you wearing the clothes, how do the pieces fit together so that the clothes are on you in the mirror? If that makes sense. Yeah.
So our main sort of idea was to work with companies like clothing store companies, large retail companies, to take images of their clothing and create 3D models which they could visualize. So one of the main things that we would need is a software that could take 2D images and translate that to 3D models. So if you have ever seen the Go app for sneakers, you can virtually try on sneakers. So if you check that out, it's something sort of similar to what we were imagining, but it's a lot easier since it's only focusing on one localized area without moving around too much. Another thing that the mirror would have to do is use a camera to sort of set points on the body to map that out into a 3D image within its own software. Then take the 3D model made from the 2D images of the clothes and overlay that onto the 3D model of the person itself, and then display that onto the mirror through the monitor while also sort of retaining the movement features. So as you move, the model on the mirror would also move as well. Some things that would require is really fast processing, a lot of software. So that'd be a very expensive product. It wouldn't be anything that most people would be able to afford on their own. Our main vision for this was actually putting it in clothing stores themselves.
Would the first step be for you to reach out to clothing stores and get their information so they can
the first step would be to create the product on our own, or at least some of the key softwares on our own, as we can just use any images on any test images to just practice and play around with the software and figure that out. We want to wait until we have actually something solid before we can start working out and reaching out to check for interest.
I was going to ask where you hope to see this in the future, but I'm guessing you just answered that. You know, you'd like to create the product at home and then reach out to stores and eventually have this in department stores.
Yeah.
If people could have it in their homes, because if in the future things are going online, a lot of retail stores close down, like looking at 50 years in the future, things are mostly online. Shopping is getting so big, right? So if people can go on Amazon or go on Macy's or something and try these on, then they don't even
in a long-term sense, maybe years down the line, you could start to see these mirrors sort of take place in homes themselves. But I think to start, mainly because of the excessive costs that would be involved with this, it wouldn't be something that most people would be able to afford on their own. Yeah,
we're looking way into the future. That's a very, very cool concept. Last thing, what advice would you give to someone who was in your position, who's in your position or was in your position a couple of years ago, where you want to start these businesses, you have so many ideas, but you don't know where to begin?
So let me just touch back to something I mentioned earlier too at the beginning. I would say that if you have an idea or any number of ideas, just find what you're most passionate about and capitalize on it. Just take an initiative as soon as you can, because if you don't, you're wasting that idea, you're wasting that opportunity, right? Don't be afraid of failure, embrace it, right? Because at worst, a failure is just a learning opportunity, right? There's nothing wrong with messing up or facing setbacks along the road, right? Everyone does, right? But if you take advantage of your ideas, take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you, and keep persevering through all the setbacks, all the obstacles, all the failures, and learn from them, then you'll be able to succeed, or then you'll be able to move forward, right? The whole point is to go for it and never give up.
Right. Yes. Very well said. So with that, I think we're going to end it here. And I thank you so much again for joining. It was really awesome to hear about all this.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
of course.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into today's episode, and we'll see you next time.